What is up, my cutouts cardboard ninja here, pumping out content for you for Crossout. Interesting story. I was not going to make a video off that, but then I read some of these questions and I'm like, are these plants? Basically, people could write questions to the devs, and the devs can answer whichever ones they chose. And these are the ones that they select for you that they chose. These are balance changes, requests, and stuff. Step one. Not enough pins for the machinist cabin. And they're like, oh, there's a technical limitation. We can't do that. We'll move some pins around. Okay, so look. Let's be clear. I can tell you how to fix the machinist right now. I've said this a gajillion times. I will say it again. This is the true fix to the machinist cabin, right? The machinist cabin's geometry is ass. Its perk is stupid because of its stupid geometry. And also converting the Savior to a weaker version or an earlier version of the Machinist is also a bad idea, but whatever. That's all aside. The simple fix is make the perk work for all weapons on the build. Full stop. Do you have any idea how many cabins do this? It's every other cabin. Literally. All of them. So, you know how the Hadron doesn't say, oh, for weapons mounted on the cabin increases reload speed? It doesn't say that. You can put your weapons fucking anywhere, right? You can have that with a Dead Man, reload speed everywhere. Echo, reload speed everywhere. Yeah, I seem to be heavily like leaning on the reload speed. But okay, watch this. Harpy increases blast radius regardless of weapon where it's placed on your build. Doesn't have to be placed on the cabin. Like, this is Catalina. The weapons don't have to be placed on the cabin. Freaking no, you don't need to, right? And that's the fix. Just that's the fix to the machinist. Yeah, I get it. We wanted to use the unique geometry. It didn't work out. Don't do it. Just change it. Just be like, hey, look, weapons mounted on your build have more durability. Full stop. Full stop. It's not even going to change 99% of the builds. Almost every single build is still going to hide their weapons like deep undercover behind walls on top of augers, so it's not going to change anything. That's the fix. Just say weapons mounted on your build or any mounted weapons. Remove the mandatory needs to be attached to shit like geometry of the cabin. That is the true fix. Triton is out of balance. For those who don't know, it's the new drive around, shoot 'em, lance 'em thing. And they're like, hey, we need to reduce it. We got to nerf this thing. It's so super strong. Their answer is it is still in the battle pass, and we are still receiving money for it. We refuse to nerf something that is making us money. That's not what we're going to do. You know we're not going to do it. It's still for sale. We're not changing shit. And as they said, it's like, oh, it's only excessive when combined with the myriads. So we're going to nerf the myriads and, so wait for this to go off sale. And once we're no longer making money on it, then we'll nerf it. That's what's going to end up happening. Seriously, that's asking to nerf a weapon they're making money off of. Boo, boo, you guys. Tracks have poor traction. He's not wrong. He's indicating that if you're on tracks, you get your shit pushed into freaking canyons, ravines. You get knocked over by hovers. It's a fucking problem out there. And they're like, no, that's not the problem. The problem is you got a track off the ground, dummy. It's not always because we got a track off the ground, dummy. It's because these things are very easily pushed. Anywho, moving right along. The flute, it's too difficult to use, needs buffing. And they're like, you know what? This is a weapon that is for sale. We sell it in packs only. We'll buff it. Moving forward, no, seriously, that's literally it. They're absolutely doing that for that reason, and they're giving it flight speed mobility, which is the thing that solves everything. Like being hit scan. The ATGM flute is totally countered. By the way, this is more flute stuff by the Argus module. So a couple people complaining about the flute, and they're like, here's what we need to do. We need to change the not the ATGM flute, but we should change the Argus. All right. So look. I was around during Lermageddon. I was down there when people were just using nothing but goddamned lock-on missiles, the Hurricane, for years. For years. And I played a Spider with ML200 fucking legs. I bought 2 Arguses and an invisibility module. That's how many missiles just constantly came flying at me, right? I'm going to tell you this right now. Argus sucks. It has always sucked. It's bad then, it's bad now. Is it mandatory? So before anyone jumps on my balls and they're like, oh, I use the Argus to you. Yes, I know. Shut up. Give me a second. Is it near mandatory in some cases? Yes. Is it good? No. No, it's not good. You know it's not good. It's terrible. The laser doesn't do anywhere near enough damage. If someone's shooting Ripper Blades down 3 at a time, one Argus will destroy 1.5 Ripper Blades before it expires. It's doing nothing. And by the way, they're firing with 2 Rippers with a reload module. There's like 20 of those on the fucking field. It does nothing. It does nothing. And they're arguing to reduce the damage. And because we're saying that, the devs are like, we agree. We're gonna look at adding bullet resistance to rockets. Why? Why would you do this? What the fuck is the point of this? It would allow them to destroy the rockets, but would make the process slower. Dude, what the fuck? This is like among the worst modules in the game. Extremely niche. Barely good at what it does now. And by the way, barely good means bad. The only reason why we don't use it is because they didn't invent something better. And fucking, they're like, yeah, I think nerfing this into the ground is a good idea. This is the reason why people shouldn't be allowed to make comments. That's a terrible idea. They want the Kinsai to be buffed. This is the Terrar replacement. The perk of it is you, for just a very, 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 very limited period of time, just a tiny window, you move a little faster. Or you could just use a light cabin and move faster than the Kinsai perked at all times, but we won't go into that. And so they're saying, hey, how about when you push the button, you move faster, you can break through movement part top speeds, you can get some damage resistance. And they're like, yeah, you know what? You're right. Kinsai sucks dick. Because we sell it for money, we'll consider buffing it. Moving right along, the absence of an armored car's wreckage. Basically, the idea is if someone self-destructs, the armored car's wreckage disappears. It doesn't actually show up. So in case you're wondering if you're using the Thesis, the Pandora, Kronos, the Titan, that's the 23 energy pulse accelerator, the Pandora, which is the ammo crate, the Kronos, which is the 105, 110 kilometer an hour. It's the fastest cabin in the game, light cabin that can barely heal for shit. And the Titan wheel, which is the wheel that was so overpowered they nerfed it in half, which is stupid because of the fact they could have just given it half hit points to start with. Anyway, all of those have a stupid mechanic where they build charges off of corpses, but now those corpses can disappear if they simply SD, thereby robbing you of your ability to use that perk. And you know what? We're going to do something about it, which is never good. Because that just means that more corpses on the battlefield. Balance problem, in your opinion, using different types of movement parts in one build. This is a plant. This motherfucker is a plant. This isn't a real person. There's no real person. It's just not a real person. This is like the devs speaking out loud. The devs have been on a one-man crusade to nerf movement parts and Crossout. They hate movement. I'm surprised we're not playing in fucking fortresses that are affixed to the fucking ground, because they're just like, no, we hate movement parts. And this guy is saying the same thing. Using different types of movement parts in one build is the problem. Different types of movement parts are used to increase durability, blah, blah, blah. Long story short, his bitching here is most people don't use armored tracks. Most people don't use Goliath tracks. Most people don't use, tracks or augers in the way they're intended. Well, not most. That's true. Augers are used in the way they're intended. But the idea is you put an auger, you put a track, you put something out in front of your build, and it absorbs damage for you. And he's like, wah, wah, wah. And his solution is the final solution. It goes hard. Completely eliminate the possibility of installing different types of movement parts on one's armored car. This dude's a motherfucking plant. No Crossout player has said this. Complete freedom in building and complete freedom in general has never led to anything good? What the hell? And by the way, just so you know, of course they're down. The devs are, of course, down. We already have mechanics that track this kind of movement part usage and impose penalties in the form of tonnage and perk to say, we will look into additional penalties to make such use of movement parts less effective. Example, disabling damage resistance. We're going to make sure that you guys can't have any fucking fun. This is, just so we're clear, here's what I believe. This person who answered the question is the person who wrote the question. Call me a conspiracy theorist, put a little fucking tinfoil hat on my head, but this person who is answering this question is the motherfucker who wrote the question. Nobody said this. Nobody said this. Nobody fucking said, who the fuck plays Crossout? And it's like, man, you know what sucks? Freedom. I just can't stand the ability to make any build I want in this game of infinite build diversity. Oof, it just disgusts me. I see you, Dev, writing your own fucking questions. Weird compiler and its weird perk. So this guy's talking about the compiler, and he goes basically ham on it. In effect, what he's saying is this. The compiler is a cannon, but You require 3 hits with the cannon to activate the artillery mode. But once the artillery mode is active, you can't shoot people far away, or you can't shoot people close. The only way to get 3 hits consecutively, typically, is if they're close enough that you can actually land all 3 hits. It's got a decent amount of recoil. And that's all fair. I think that's great. Compiler's actually pretty knuckin' fucking busted. It's pretty good. So his complaint is that if you ever get the ability to launch the artillery mode, well, it sucks because they're going to be close to you and you can't use it. So it's dumb, blah, blah, blah. So what the devs are saying is the suggestion this guy came up with was just generating free charges. He gives a ton of different things. He's like, oh, you should just get the artillery mode for free. Yeah, no, the devs are like, no, we already have a buff coming. It's going to have a faster reload. Suck it, basically. But the idea is this, and I disagree with this person. The idea is this. It's just, it doesn't have to be something that triggers like, what's the thing called? We'll say the waltz, right? Where the 3rd missile is always more damage, or something where, like, you know, it triggers a perk that has to be used. It's an option, right? The compiler is a great option. Like, if you're in the middle of the shit and you're pounding away on people, ripping their apart their build 3 cannon shells at a time, right? And then you finish them off, and then there's a calm, right? The idea is that there's another fight going on the other side of the map. Well, then all you have to do is activate the compiler's perk and launch artillery at the other side of the map for a free engagement over great distances, right? It was never designed to be like you shoot one and then you artillery, you shoot one, then you artillery. That's not the design. And so I disagree with that fundamentally. Slaughterer, it sucks. This guy's mentioning the Slaughterer sucks. He really wrote out how the Slaughterer sucks. And yeah, no, it sucks. So for those of us who don't know what the Slaughterer is, and we know that would be everybody, and that's because ain't no one using it, and that would be because it sucks, is that the Slaughterer is a grenade launcher. It has 2 firing modes. If you tap fire it fires a grenade that does barely any damage whatsoever, and it hits a pretty large blast area. The number of parts hit on that shot then buffs all the next shot's damage by a percentage, up to 20%. The secondary fire mode is a bullet. It does barely any blast damage, but it fires a pretty dang good penetrating shot that it looks kind of like, if anyone's ever seen Top Attending Gurren Lagann, looks like you're firing drills at fools. And that's the mode that most people use pretty much at all times because the first mode sucks so much dick. And so this guy's complaining that the first mode sucks dick, second mode is the only one people use, it's still not that good, it's got weird mount points, all that good stuff like that, and the comment is, yeah, why not? We'll buff it. I mean, that's it. That's basically it. The Slaughterer sucks, and they're considering to buff it, which means that's probably going to end up in a new battle pass or one of those mini passes. Bricks problems. Hey, they have a problem, and the guy. This is actually I should just skip this because it doesn't make sense. This guy's saying that acceleration sucks and doesn't work the way he thinks it does, and the devs are saying no, acceleration works exactly as you think it does. We can't even reproduce what you're saying, so we're skipping that guy. Unpopular weapons such as the Summiter and the Argument nail guns. You guys might be wondering, Summiter? Argument? I remember the Argument. I used that to sacrifice for a real weapon 2 battle passes ago, but you never put it in a build and fired it once in your goddamn life. Why? It's ass. Summiters are ass. Arguments are ass. They suck. They have always sucked. And so they're like, hey, we need to buff these. Long story short, he has different reasons why they need to buff them, but in reality, it's because they are. Think of them like shotguns with unlimited range, with lower projectile velocity, lower damage, and no impulse. So just so you know, if you hit someone with a fully charged set of Summiters or Arguments, like full blast, boom, it does no impulse. It does nothing to their build, and that's another one of the problems with this weapon. Anyway, they said, hey, we're going to rebalance it. Most likely because, nobody has them anymore because we sacrificed them. ML200, useless perk. Hey, ML200, blah, 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 blah. They're basically saying that any build that uses ML200s is usually fucking super heavy. And the perk is to reduce the recoil of its own weapons by a percentage, which is highly irrelevant because of the fact that it has basically, you already have a gajillion tons on it. Now, I will say something before they answer. Actually, you know what? I'm going to read their answer first. Fuck you and fuck the ML200s. We don't like those movement parts. We never have, and we will never buff this leg. We will release a new leg in exchange instead of buffing this leg. Do you realize why there's the Myriads, the Garidias, the Bigrams, any leg? It's because they fucking will never buff the ML200. Fuck you and fuck your ideas trying to buff this leg. We hate it. We've always hated it. We will never change. Okay, so that was their answer. I'm not even joking. That's actually what they said. They're like, hey, we would consider reworking the perk. Not that we would. We tested various options, but we've decided not to change this perk at this time. Get fucked. ML200 received other buffs. This is good enough. We don't give a shit. As I said, get fucked. We will sell you a new leg. We're not buffing the ML200. Shut the fuck up. Now, all of that said, before we continue on, I will say this. The ML200's perk is not useless. It is extremely, extremely niche, but not useless. What is the... I'll give you guys a second to answer. Just say it out loud. What is the ML200's perk used for? 1, 2, 3. The Impulsiveness Brawl. It is the only part in the game. The only part in the game that can guarantee that you do not get one hit in the Impulsiveness Brawl. So in the Impulsiveness Brawl, impulse is increased by a gajillion %. You get hit by anything that has any degree of impulse, like spikes or toadfish or whatever, and you get sent into the stratosphere. They launch your shit into space. And if any part of your build other than movement parts comes in contact with the ground before that point, you explode immediately because you break the speed limit of the game, which is somewhere in the neighborhood of 220 something kilometers an hour or some shit like that. And if you touch the ground with something that's not a moving part, you just explode, right? So the only thing that can stop that is the ML200's useless perk. It gives a percentage reduction in impulse from your own weapons, but also impulse you take. And so what that does is it prevents you from dying. It stops you from accelerating to the game's top speed, and so you can take shot after shot after shot in the Impulsiveness Brawl. It's actually really, really good there. Other than there, valueless, has no value. The perk does nothing. You know it does nothing, and they're going to sell you another motherfucking leg if you come up with any other ideas. This person's saying certain weapons and cabins of the special rarity Teal weapon is basically ass. Brings up the median, brings up the pyramid, brings up the guardian, the leech, and all that good stuff like that. And the devs are saying in 4K to 8K, no, they are viable. If you're trying to drag this above 8K, then that would make sense as to why you're not seeing them. But 4 to 8K, all the Teal parts appear to be viable. So, shut up. Moving forward, frontal shotguns and machine guns are unpopular. Look, I'll just tell you this right now. There's a reason why they're unpopular. There's plenty. So he's saying that they have rotation, surface angles, and they don't have durability. All this. Yeah, sure. 1, they remove the hit scan from all of them, right? 2, because of their limited firing angles combined with the fact that they're no longer hit scan, makes them hard to actually land shots. 3, they're not accurate. They never were. They weren't designed to be accurate. They actually have a very wide spread in comparison to the previous tap-fire machine guns, and it's terrible. It's very terrible. And then 4, they nerfed the tackler into the ground. For those of us who didn't notice, if you see, they hate that gun. When they released the gun, it was way overpowered, and there were people running tackler spiders in CW because it was that strong. Then they were like, let's nerf this into the ground, and then they did. And then they said, let's nerf this into the ground, even after nerfing it into the ground. And they're like, is there any reason to do this? They're like, no, but we're gonna. And then they nerfed it in the ground some more. And then they said, you know what? It's time. We kind of ran this thing directly into the ground. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna buff it by nerfing it into the ground. I'm not joking. If you go back through my videos, they actually did that. They said, hey, we're reducing the energy cost of the tackler by 1 so you can put a more additional tackler on your build. All right, cool. And we're nerfing the damage by 20%. What was that last second part? No, just ignore that part. We're reducing the energy cost. Yeah. Wait, no, but you're nerfing the damage by 20%. It already takes fucking 4 tacklers to do. Now he takes 5 tacklers to do the same damage as 4 tacklers. That literally evens out the energy change. You actually nerfed it. You made it worse. And they're just like, yay, we did it. And they just walked away. So, anyway, frontal shotguns. They suck. And basically they're saying they're going to end up buffing them. Moving right along, they're saying that there's basically the last question has to do with Leviathans, and this is true. And the simple fact of the matter is they're only viable Leviathan cabins for Leviathan PvP when you're playing as other players or light cabins. And in reality, it's 2. Kami and the cockpit. Either you want 40% more damage or you don't want your build to take debuffs. Those are really your only 2 options. And they agree. They're like, hey, yeah, no, like you get almost no benefit from running a medium or heavy cabin. Almost none. In fact, you're very, very helpless. You're going to die if you run a medium or heavy cabin because you can get, 120 kph plus, right? And you can get that on a build that has 14,000 highball hit points, assuming you use cabin, versus, oh, you could have 15,000 hit points and be stationary. And even then, believe it or not, it's not actually true, because the additional mass doesn't actually help. That's the kicker. They're saying, like, oh, we might give you additional mass or tonnage buffs or some shit for a heavy cabin, but it doesn't matter. It straight up doesn't. If you've ever built a Leviathan, you know that you use all the parts, right? And you use, well, again, you use all the heaviest parts. You start from the heaviest, you don't even sort by mass, you sort by hit points. And you start with the highest hit point part to the lowest hit point part, and you grab only all of the highest hit point parts on the way down. You don't grab anything in between. And you still run out of parts, is the point. Increasing tonnage beyond whatever we get with 59,470, increasing tonnage beyond 60,000 is pointless. You could have a tonnage between 60,000 and infinity, and it will not change the durability of Leviathan, because there's a part limit. The fix would be increased part limits for medium and heavy cabins, not just the mass. It's part limit, because we already reach part limit with all of the parts that we currently have. Anywho, that's just a side. And their comment is, yeah, we know, but here's the deal. We're not going to fuck over Leviathan drivers yet. That's their answer. They're like, because if we change it so light cabins are suddenly like light Leviathans, and that's going to make everyone mad. Everyone's just going to, oh my god, it's just so angry. Because this would negate literally all Leviathans in the game simultaneously, and then that's just going to make everyone super fucking mad at them. And so, yeah, they're not doing it. Not yet, anyway. So that's it. I just want to go over these things and this obvious plant-ass question from themselves. Obvious plant. Anyway, they need to make this less obvious. They wrote their own question and answered it themselves. So expect movement parts to get nerfed again in the future, because the devs don't like movement parts. And when we're both sitting in castles, firing at each other from our castle walls that can't move, remember, I called it. All right, guys, have a good one. Peace.